people, you've been judged, they're wrong, I'm going to prove them wrong.
Mindful that if we're judging in that type of way, that there's always a story behind it.
Judgment for me kind of resonates a bit with emotional intelligence and conscious and unconscious biases.
Kick off, and then that subsides, and then your logical brain gets a chance to kick in.
The only thing that gives judgment power is when you react.
But I truly believe that people are good. Take Ryan.
Ryan just made a brilliant
eyebrow. Oh, judgment! No, judgment. He turned up late.
Honestly, Joe, the energy you're expelling right now, judging my lateness. Inspiration Nation, hello, Lee Kemp here for another week on a podcast. Here with my good friend, Ryan Boniface, Jose Noya. Are you pleased to see me, guys, after my unscheduled absence last week?
Please probably wouldn't be the word I'd use, being that you're an hour and 20 minutes late to this recording as well. But
look, no one needs to know that.
It's all good. It's all good.
Oh, TikTok, just to let you know, Lee turned up so late that I had a bottle of wine in the cellar that's actually turned vintage by the time.
Third time.
Yeah, no, this it's not. It doesn't get funnier every time you say it.
It's much better because people on TikTok haven't heard it, and I'm going to say it
Joe
again.
wants a bottle of wine for Christmas, and that's why he keeps.
Jammy Red. If you're interested, Jammy Red TikTok, Jammy Red. I love our Jammy Red. So don't forget, that's a lovely Christmas present. Thank you guys, appreciate it. Go on then, Lee. Carry on with your amazing.
To Jose Noya, care of Inspiration Nation HQ. Thank you everyone out there for joining us, watching us on YouTube, download us across all podcast platforms, and of course follow us on social media at listen to IN, listen TOIN. We appreciate you all. So I believe, guys, it may be my week this week for a subject. Is that right? I believe more so. It also may have been my week for a subject last week before I said 5 minutes before recording I couldn't join. But some enthusiastic nodding for those watching on YouTube or watching us live on TikTok. What again are you on? What is your username, hashtag, searchable, whatever it is on TikTok, Joe?
Noya_InspirationNation. And just to let you know, we've had Purple Heart 123 join. So thank you for joining. Really appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Norman joined as well. Thank you for joining. Natalie Millwood 34. Thank you for joining. Really appreciate you. So thanks for joining. Brilliant. Okay.
Absolutely. So this week then, guys, I want to do a toss up here because there's still part 2 to do from my McDonald's episode. I'm loving it. A few episodes back where I was going to talk about the negative side of the film after the positive, but I think I'm going to hang on to that one. And there's a thing I've been rattling around in my head for a little while that it's not quite the thought experiment line, but I suppose it kind of is. And I want to discuss a concept and see what you guys think about it. And I always caveat it because I might end up talking to myself in a corner I don't agree with, or it's something a bit blue sky, but let's see where we go. So I want to talk about judgment.
Oh, haven't we talked about this before in some way, shape or form?
We probably have. It fits with our brand and theme, but...
It does. Okay.
So to start us off, and there's kind of in my head, there's 2 parts to this episode, and it's the power of judgment that I want to talk about. And I've not got the power of love in my head as a song as I say that.
You're going to sing it, Lee?
No, because there's like 2 extra syllables in there, so it won't really work. Like on Love Actually, where he trades love for Christmas and squeezes it into the song. So the power of judgment and what it does for us and how people react to being judged, the thought, how it feels, how it makes people act, why people judge other people is the theme of the show. So before I dive in on the meat and potatoes, so to speak, what are your initial thoughts on judgment and its power and your own, I don't know, interaction or usage thereof?
Okay, right. So for me, what's come up immediately? First of all, I just want to say thank you. I just wanted to say a quick shout out before I start to Dehayman004 for being my 1000th follower on TikTok. I did promise I'd say that, so I did a little live. So thank you for that, and thank you to Johnny Taylor 17 for joining. Really appreciate it. So lovely joining for everybody. So thank you for that. So just that you're on TikTok, any questions, please let me know, and I can pass them on to Lee and the gang. So please feel free to do that.
Gang, I like that.
Yes, we are cool. So judgment, I think judgment is quite ego driven. I think for me, it's, I find I judge quite a lot in my head, and I try and really be conscious of not wanting to judge, because who am I to judge, right? You know, I've got, you know, am I perfect? No. So why are we judging? I suppose judging back in the day when, when we had to judge in the wild or wherever, I suppose we had to do some judgment, and in terms of judging certain things, whether it's right or wrong, whether we need to be with a certain group. So, I think there's a lot in it. I just don't think it's most of the time healthy. I think if you control it and aware of it, I think that's a good thing. But if you're judging, and you're judging maybe, that you'll get right, oh, I don't think I should have done that, I think they're terrible, what is going on behind it? I think we can judge, and then we can not really realise the backstory to those judgments. Like someone being rude in a coffee shop, for instance, and someone coming up and shouting at the staff, right? Yeah, initially that's absolutely rude, but actually, do we know what's going on with that person's life? I'm not saying the behaviour is right, but there's something's going on in their life, right? And that's the reason they were behaving that way. And there's lots of stories, I think, with people on tubes that have shouted and been rude because there was something going on in their life. And it's not to excuse the behaviour, but it's like, just we've got to think about and be mindful that if we're judging in that type of way, that there's always a story behind it. And I think likewise, when we judge others, there's always a story while we're judging. We've got some some baggage we've got, and we're judging it against a certain standard. And I think we just got to just understand everyone's just trying to do their best, and how do we do that? But I think there's a place for judgment. I think there is, because you need to judge, basic things. Should I buy this car? Should I take a certain job? Should I? So the judgment's useful, but that's my initial thoughts. That's what come to mind. So I'll let Ryan speak now.
Well, it's good, and you've given there's two follow-ups I got from that there as well, Joe. So some good stuff.
Okay.
Judgment for me kind of resonates a bit with emotional intelligence and conscious and unconscious biases. There'll be certain things where, as Joe says, who am I to judge? And you'll be aware of a situation and you'll say, look, it's not really my place to comment on. And then there'll also be situations where, I don't know, you're driving down the road and you'll think, oh gosh, what's that person wearing? Before you've done it, before you know about it, you've judged them, right? So these things happen. There is obviously equality laws and things like that to stop this thing happening professionally, but in the same way that a candidate will judge a workplace before they interview, is the same way that the workplace will judge the candidate in the interview. So a savvy candidate will look up reviews of a workplace, or if they know people that work there, will ask questions about it, right? So that's them gaining a basis on which to judge whether they would be happy to go there or not. Person to person, these things happen. And I think just being aware that these biases exist, whether conscious or unconscious, is really important, because it means that you can try and put into practice not doing it. But again, it's easier said than done. So initially, that's kind of where I sit.
No, that's some good stuff. So, like you said, Ryan, there's the consciousness of judging and prejudging everything else. And then, Joe, you gave a good example there of the person in a coffee shop has an absolute meltdown, is really rude, or whatever it is. But like you said, there's a reason behind that. They probably, that's the boiling over of something that's probably been mounting, or whatever it is. Even they might not have eaten all day, they've been in the shop, someone was really rude to them, and they just reached that point where and storm out, or whatever it is. 2 hours later, how do you think they feel about that situation?
Depends on the person. So are you going down a chimp paradox route on this one? I don't know. It sounds like a bit of chimpy, maybe, because that's
no, not really. Actually, no.
Okay, all right, because that's what came to mind. I thought, oh, hang on, is this because of the emotional overload? Then you then exercise the chimp. We talked about this before, haven't we? And then, okay, afterwards you might regret it because, I shouldn't have done that, or there's a bit of reflection because the amygdala's taken over your emotional center, which is the emotional part of the brain. You kick off. And then that just subsides, and then your logical brain gets a chance to kick in, and you might, do you know what, I shouldn't have been so rude. I know I've got a bad day or whatever, but I shouldn't have done that. That's my thinking behind it.
No, I think that's right, and because they will probably feel that they've been out there and people will be judging them based on that behavior they've seen. That's a very small snippet of who they are. So the flip side of the coin, and I've got a story at the end of this for the example, so it's not just me bashing out questions all the time with you guys, but how do you feel, or how do you react when you feel like you are being judged by others?
How do I feel? Ryan, do you want to go first?
I think it depends on the context, because knowing me, I would want to do everything I can to prove them wrong. So if it was a work scenario, then if I was being judged negatively, then I'd want to give a reason to stick it to them, if you like, and just be like, I'm here for a reason, or people know about me because of this and what I can do, whatever, right? Personally, but again, and this is where, on the rare occasion, my thought of I don't really care about much kind of comes into play quite well for me, because I just really couldn't give a crap in some aspects. There are some things where I'll be like, that's a bit frustrating, I guess, but I don't really tend to let those things get me down. If it's a social situation, then I just won't socialize with the person that I think is judging me. If it's a professional situation, then I don't know, I'll just kind of prove them wrong, or do whatever I need to do to kind of earn that respect, or do whatever, whatever seems right at the time. But all in all,
Cool.
I just don't really care. That's kind of where I sit.
And we'll come back to it in a second, because I'm building up layers to my story here.
Well, like this.
That's good. I like that.
So in terms of feeling judged in TikTok, I'm just going to ask you, so how do you feel TikTok about being judged as a person? Maybe you want to answer Lee's question as well. So if you do get anything, I get it from TikTok, Lee, I'll pass it over to you. It depends on where that judgment's coming from. I like beans and chicken. Welcome, thank you. That's just another tip.
I thought you were just saying that randomly in the conversation.
I am calling people out to say joy, so thank you for that, guys. At call 1203. Thank you as well for joining. So it depends on where the judgment is coming from. So if it's just judgment per se, and it depends on the intention for me. If someone's judging me because I'm asking for something, or they're giving me feedback or they're judging my behavior because I'm trying to do something and there's good intention behind it, and the judgment and feedback that I'm getting is valuable because I feel that the judgment's for my better good and they are helping me, then I'm better with that. If it's just judgment for judgment's sake, and do you know what? Like even now, like we've had judgment on the podcast, right? People say, "Oh, it's great, it's crap, whatever," right? How do I feel about that? I just feel, and when I was on the TikTok live, I had some people sort of, being a bit negative. How do I feel about that? It hurts. It hurts because I'm a human being. I'm not going to say it doesn't hurt when being judged. So TikTok, what do you feel? So that's where I sit with it. I think, when it's like just blatant negativity, that does hurt. But I've built up a resistance to it. But it hurts still. It doesn't go away. It's something you need to manage. And like, when we do stuff on social and we're getting judgment, a lot of it's like 99% of it's brilliant, it's positive, but you always get that little percent say you're crap or whatever, or there'll be some. We had that experience, we've had that experience, guys, right? And we felt really, it's quite difficult, wasn't it? It was hard because it was almost like, okay, where's that coming from? What have we done? Bit of self-doubt maybe. And it's that sort of thing. And I think for me, it's the intention by which it's being given for me. That's where I'm feeling about it.
So and that's good. I think I'm poking on something here with you, Joe, as well.
I feel
slightly that's it. You feel slightly uncomfortable in your answers and uncomfortable with the poking.
Yes, I'm very uncomfortable with that.
And as I say, the more we dive into this, I'm blue skying a bit of this, so it's not always perfect. But Ryan, you said there, and it's something I've always done, and it's a common thing from people. You've been judged, they're wrong. I'm going to prove them wrong. Mm-hmm. Human nature. That's what we do. And the thing I've been thinking about more and more, and I say I've been building this for a while, is one is an idealistic place where people just didn't judge people. But the more I've been thinking about it, the more I see the perception of judgment. So even though I'm trying, not saying I'm perfect with it, but even though I try to not do that with people, I've started to see people reacting to me as if I have judged them, even though that's not even in my consciousness.
Okay.
And as a live example of this, it's quite an easy one. It was a worky thing, which every person talking about won't mind because, well, it's nothing bad on them whatsoever. And it's a minor thing, and I'm trying to normalise as much as possible. But within work, pre-COVID, there's a few things that where expenses would go through the business. We had accounts that we all were a part of, so that rather than paying claim back, there was just a business account. And then COVID struck, and all those sort of things got closed down because we never did anything that needed claiming expenses because we never left our four walls. And then we started to return back to normality, and bit by bit, some of those things have started to come in. And I got an email through saying, oh, we're resetting up the account for blah, blah, blah. Let me know if you'd like your details on it, which suddenly made me think, oh, God, I didn't pay for that last time I did it because I'm used to it just being on account, and went and paid it. And then I emailed the person a few days later and said, oh, yeah, can you add me to this? Here's my details. Oh, and by the way, you sent that email at the perfect time because it reminded me I had one to pay. And the response back I got from them was, oh, yeah, I'm really sorry. I probably should have got it set up earlier. But in no way was I inferring that me having to pay for something was because they'd done it late. But I think they'd almost taken something that they then felt they needed to defend themselves on off the back of it. And that was quite an easy one because they come in and they said sorry. And I feel bad. And I went back to them to say they didn't need to worry about it. But they came back, they'd obviously felt bad, like I'd said they'd done something wrong, and they felt they'd done something wrong when that wasn't even close to my consciousness whatsoever. And it's made me think, how many times have I felt like I'm being judged when I'm not, when it's not even on the person's radar, it's my own internal lens. But then how many times, back to Ryan's example of I'm going to prove them wrong, have then I reacted in a way that comes across as defensive or aggressive, or is just outright aggressive because of the perceived judgment that they've got no idea I think they did, because they didn't think they do it. So they don't see a reaction from me. They just see an action from me from that perception of judgment. And I was thinking, what if I just stopped seeing the judgment? Because then on that flip side of it, I'm never going to react badly. Similarly, if people go wider, weren't perceiving judgment from me, I don't have to, you don't have to sanitize in what you're saying. You can be more relaxed with it. And also on the flip side of that, I was then thinking, but hold on, sometimes people are saying something passive aggressively or between the lines or outwardly just, you're a blah, 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 blah. So it is there. And I thought, what if I missed them? And then suddenly I thought, wait, does it matter? Because if I don't give them power either, that's the only thing that gives the judgment power is when you react to it. And I'm only one person, but what if everyone did this? And you completely removed its power? And like the person, back to your coffee shop example, which like you said, Joe, you can take as, well, they would be in a insert swear word. Of course they deserve to be judged. But they're probably not an insert swear word for most of their life. That was like 2% that you see because of whatever those things are. And then they go away and they feel terrible because of it, but probably because of how they were judged because of that 2-minute moment. But what if they didn't feel it? They know that that's not me all the time. That was just a short moment. Maybe they did something wrong to someone they need to go and apologize for, but they don't have that languishing guilt from it, and they can move on, and no one else is bad because they're not judging it. And I know it's a bit hippie and a bit idealistic, but I was just thinking more and more, and it's moved me more and more to where people either feel bad for something or start to build up negative opinions of a person or have a negative outlook on someone because of a perception that becomes real because they talk about it. Oh, such and such is always judging me for this, or they're always criticizing me for this. And that person might have no idea they're even doing it. And one person's walking around feeling awful that they're getting all that stuff on them, and another person's getting a bad reputation built up. And what if you just took all of that away by not, and the focus isn't I'm going to stop judging other people, the focus is I'm going to stop feeling judged. But I think as a natural effect, you would then stop judging as you become more conscious. And what if that's something we could do? How much would that change things? Is it a good thing? Is it not a good thing?
I think it's a great thing for me. I mean, I try and purposely stop myself judging. When my mind goes, oh, I see something, my mind automatically wants to judge, and I try and be conscious of I'm judging, because it takes a lot of energy to judge as well. Like, you expend a ton of energy judging situations, judging people, when actually it's one, I think, about beliefs, about your beliefs about people. Now, my belief is that I tend to believe that most, like 99% of people are good. That's what my intention is. Of course, there's that 1% that aren't, right? But I truly believe that people are good. Take it, Ryan.
Ryan just gave a brilliant eyebrow nudge from that.
Oh, judgment! Look, judgment. He turned up late. Look.
Honestly, Joe, the energy you're expelling right now, judging my lateness, 1 hour and 9 minutes.
There you go. But I think there's a lot around beliefs about. I think the reason we judge is around our beliefs that we hold about the world that we judge. And I think if we could look at those beliefs and actually say, well, look, if we, it's about beliefs and intention. For me, so if we could, like you said, have an intention to say, I'm not going to judge this situation, I'm just going to just see it, it's a moment in time, and
flip it, Joe, because this is what we did a show on before. We talked about judgments and the wasted energy and but I might be wrong on this, but when I started talking about how do you feel when you're judged, you did, as we all do when we hit certain topics, you had your slightly uncomfortable Joe voice. Which I think means as it does with all of us, it affects you when it happens because of whatever. But what if this is nothing to do with you not judging other people, but this is you not acknowledging the judgment against you?
Oh, okay. So I'm in a situation, I feel like I've been judged, you mean?
Yeah, and not just a specific, every day, your whole life, it's not even on your radar.
Yeah, that's a difficult one, isn't it? Because I think our minds automatically go to that. So, like, okay, just trying to think of a situation. I suppose it's like when you get some feedback or something like that, how do you not feel judged if someone's giving you feedback? But then I suppose, is it then about almost like having intention that this person's giving me this because the intention is to help me? Is that healthy? I don't know. I don't know. I think
feedback is different. There's an outward conversation, but it's more I walk in and the neighbour's there and they give me a funny look and I'm like, oh, I never like them. Okay. I'm going to give them a funny look back. But what if that wasn't there? What if
reaction?
I say not that I'm like, I don't care that they did it. I'm completely ignorant to the concept that they judged me, and maybe they're having a bad day. There's a million reasons they could have gave me a funny look. That's nothing to do with me because they're not judging me. It's to do with them. So next time I see them, rather than giving a funny look and they think, why they give me a funny look, I smile because I'm not feeling judged. I'm not feeling insecure. I'm not feeling defensive that they gave me a funny look.
Yeah, and also, what is the funny look? To them might not be a funny look, right?
Exactly. That's it.
That's perception. It's a perception of the situation. So when I practice. This is something I practice, and I talked about this before in one of the videos that I did. Well, I'll just go walking along, and I'll just smile at them, and even if they look really, really like here you go, they look really miserable, like I think, oh, I'm not sure. I would just smile, and you know what? 9 times out of 10, people will smile back at you, even if you feel that you're being like they're looking at you a bit. But if you smile, it almost like decomposes. So my way to try and do what you're saying, which is really difficult, by the way, is to just smile at people. So that'd be my trigger. It would be if I feel that is it, I will just smile and I will try and remember what you said.
And on that flip, again, you got this comes back to the bit you said, which is where it's idealistic that everyone is a good person at heart. Because you've got example is you send an essay off to someone for something. I don't know what it is. It's probably not the best example, but you've done something, you've made something, and you're like, oh, they're not going to like it, they're not going to like it. And then they respond back, you're like, I knew they weren't going to like it. But what if you didn't have that there? What if whether they liked it or not, from that, they're going to think it's bad, wasn't a thing. Now, you want to make sure it's good and you want to be conscious of it being good. And like you said, you take genuine feedback, but you take out the round the side, oh, they said it was good, but I don't think they really liked it. That sort of thing. And can that catch on? If one person does it, can two, can four?
I think it
10,
can.
can
I think it
100?
can.
And is that a good thing?
I think it's good. I think it gives people more confidence. I think it would just people let free to express.
That's one of the key things. I think that fear of judgment, that perception of judgment, absolutely erodes confidence. And I think that's one of the things that I know it from people I've seen from me, and I just think how many misinterpretations would be gone. And again, it's not about not judging; it's about not feeling the judgment of others. Right? You look very thoughtful there.
Yeah. As a counter to that, the fear of being judged, does that then not take away people's intent to do well? Because if they're not going to get judged for it, then what's the point of trying with anything? Just as an initial rebuttal to that, does that then
a good word?
Does that then just mean that has butt in it? So it's quite funny. Does it then just mean that people just stop caring about the stuff that they do? Because it doesn't really matter if nobody's going to judge you, right? I think for me, your kind of story about the work situation kind of rolls back to the unconscious and conscious bias of things. In the same way that exists, there's a conscious and unconscious judging of situation and people. And it might be, and I'm sure your email, because I've received emails from you and I've corresponded with you at work before, I'm sure your email was worded perfectly fine. But just because...
typos aside, right?
Yeah, obviously. But I'm just thinking that maybe this person received it and thought, that email seems a bit shifty. Just for whatever reason. Unconsciously, you've written an email that says, thanks for reminding me to do this. Completely forgot I hadn't done it before. Cheers, or whatever. And they've read that and gone, oh, if I sent that earlier, if he did, I should have reminded him earlier. God, what donut I am. And then that's where that unconsciousness kind of falls into it. You said that you had no ill intention in it, and that you then went and kind of fixed the situation by kind of confirming what your position was. And you said you weren't conscious, you were consciously not trying to judge them. But that's the question. I'm not saying that you were in a situation, but hypothetically, could you have been unconsciously judging them for not telling you sooner? And knowing no, you didn't. But just from a hypothetical situation that exists from, that's plausible, right? The coffee shop situation, the server may say, oh, they might be having a bad day, but in their mind or in their subconscious, they're thinking, oh, what a D-bag, and that just comes through not when somebody intends it to. And there's the conversation you're having about what if we just switch this off, if we could, switch this off in everybody. I think there's more to it than that. I think more comes out of it, because every positive emotion or effect has a negative one. I feel sometimes there's love, there's hate, there's there's loads of different ones, but that's we'll go with that. With that.
Yeah, what's the opposite of judgment? I like that.
Yeah. There's laughing, there's crying, there's just as a really quick kind of throw through thought, I guess. But I don't know, would we cause a chemical imbalance to the population of the world if we took away something like that? And we're talking about judgment in a negative fashion. It isn't always negative, right? Like, how often will somebody say, does this outfit look all right on me? Do you, as Joe kind of mentioned, you have to judge if you're going to get a new car, if that'll work for you. If you took that situation out, everyone would go and buy a Lamborghini, right? Because it doesn't matter.
Well, they can't. No, myself personally.
No, yeah, okay.
However, again, on both those, don't get me wrong, I think that's all valid stuff, and this is part of what I've been going through my head, and this is why I caveat these things. That I'm not saying this is what we should do. They're just quite interesting to multiple.
Oh no, of course.
Very idealistic. So when I challenge this, it's not because I'm knocking that, because I've gone through all of these thoughts, but the what does my outfit look like? I'm asking that because I'm worried I'll go out and people think I look stupid. Despite the fact I clearly chose this and I wanted it and I like it because I put it on, I might then not wear this thing I like because I think other people think I look stupid. Yeah. Whereas what if I didn't think about that and I liked it and I felt good? And the same with the car.
Yeah.
How many people buy a car because they'll get judged if they don't buy that car.
Yeah.
As an example.
Yeah, or they buy it if they want to be accepted by other people because of the judgment.
And that. What if actually
validation?
I'm going to buy this car because I like it for me because it has all the things I want.
Yeah.
I'm happy.
That's it. That's how it should be. But
and there was some really good, and I know I jumped with them. That's some good illustrations of this, and it's back to the confidence thing and everything again in people and how they're feeling. And again, Joe, intentions. For it to work, people have got to have good intentions. But to nick this, and it's to nick a classic Joeism, it's circles of control. I can't stop people judging me. I have no control over that. That's not a thing I can do. What I can do is control how I react to that judgment. Instead of being an F in A, blah, 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 I'm like, they must be having a really bad day because they've sent that to me. God, they must be feeling the pressure to be sending something like that out to someone without thinking about it. God, that must, why is that person struck? That, and that's not what it is. There's 100 reasons I could come up with for why someone's done something to me. I did air quotes on the to me there. Some of them really positive, some actually very mitigating factors and whatever else. And any one of those things could be true. So why can't I just decide it's the one that gives the person the benefit of the doubt and move on?
You can decide.
And I'm not. That's it. And I'm not saying that is where my brain is all the time. But this is something I'm trying to push. And that's I suppose where we talk about the takeaways. That's my takeaway in this is I can control that. And actually, if someone's in like, God, why are you so chill about that? And I say that, and they're like, oh, I might adopt that. And they tell someone, and can I, lead by example with this behavior of not judging, and I will try not to do that as much as possible, but not having what I do be influenced by a perception of judgment. And again, that doesn't mean I ignore what anyone says. If someone says, look, Lee, that wasn't good, you need to do this, I'm not going to be like, I don't need your judgment. That to me, that's not what I'm talking about in this scope. It's all the unsaid judgment in my head is the bit to just peter down.
Yeah, I love all that, and I think there's a lot. Go on, Ryan.
I definitely have that. Like thinking about work stuff. Just because we have to keep so many people on side in the job that we do. So if somebody does get judgy about it and they get annoyed, then I get a knock on the door from this man who probably gets a knock on the door from people that earn a lot more money than the pair of us do, So in some ways you have to have that kind of level head. But I guess if you could, it's hard to think of a world where you could just switch that off. I think not that I'm saying I'm struggling to comprehend it, but maybe I am.
I'm going to try doing this, and I've been doing it for a little bit, or I've been seeing it, or I've been advising people on it. And again, positively, I'm not saying when people feel like they're being judged, that's not negative, that's natural, it's human behavior. And what I'm talking about is going against the grain on our natural inbred self-survival mechanisms. And I'm going to put, and this, I know we don't do the updates anymore, but I want to kind of drop in and let you guys know where it is. And the same, Ryan, not saying you have to, but you said with the work thing, I'm going to prove them wrong. You don't need to prove them wrong because they might well be wrong.
My ego says I have to.
There's ego.
And that's it. But that's, again, that's a thing to fight.
Yeah.
But let's feel comfortable. Let's, we're not out in the jungle with spears or bad example.
No, you are right.
Again, it's a thought experiment. It's very idealistic. It's very hippie-ish. It's very blue sky. But I just want to put the concept out there. And I saw the look on both your faces.
You just judged the idea.
When I got to it.
It's very hip. You just judge the whole thing. Don't judge it. It's just leave it. Don't say it's that.
Is a characterization a judgment?
I saw the look on your guys' face when I said it, and I'm like, I'm onto something with this. And I just want people just to be there in consciousness a little bit. And I'm really going to push myself on this, and I'll bring it up, but I want you guys to question me on it as well. And I'm going to try really, and it'll be hard. It will be hard. Yeah. I'm going to try with this and see what it does for my own well-being, and if it's good, whether that can influence anyone else. And that is my inspiration to the nation.
I love that. I love that. So. I'm
pleased. I've been thinking about this one for quite a while, and I'm glad it feels like it's gone down well, and I'm glad about that.
Yeah, I think it's good. I think it's the whole thing, isn't it? It is about that, and if we can do that, we can do things. Obviously, there's things. What you're going to do, like you said, Lee, isn't going to harm anybody, and that you're doing it because you want to do it, and it doesn't harm anybody else. then I think it's a good thing. I think it's going to give you confidence in who you are. So yeah, I'm with that. So takeaway, you've had your big takeaway, Lou. That was a big takeaway, wasn't it?
I'm also having a pizza after this. Boom.
Lovely. Look at you.
Right. What are your takeaways, my fellow nationers?
Ryan, do you want to go?
To skip a week and be late to come up with a subject as good as this.
Oh, thank you, Ryan. I appreciate that.
My takeaway from this is it's tapping into Lee's though a bit. I was going to say you can only control what you can control, but that's kind of tapping into Lee's quite heavily, I guess.
It's a good one. It's fine. That's good.
Okay, so is that your one, Ryan? Is that the one? For me, is you don't need people's validation, because that's part of it. It's
absolutely
like about that car or about that thing. What are you doing that for or buying that for? Are you buying it for your happiness? I think happiness is the game. So this really taps into that. So for me, so you don't need validation. You're doing it because you want to do it. It's for you and nobody else, because it's you, and it's you true to the core. And that's my big takeaway. Done. Brilliant. I really love that.
Awesome sources.
I really did. You say awesome sauce, awesome sauces, awesome sauces, awesome sauces. Okay. Sorry.
Right.
I should not.
We are down to 1 minute and 45 minutes. Timer. Thank you, everybody out there, for listening, downloading, watching at Listen to IN, Listen to OIN. Just search Jose Noya Inspiration Nation into your Google machine and you will find us. We appreciate it. Tell friends, tell family, leave us a review, all that great stuff. And don't forget to head over to inspirationnation.org.uk for everything nation, coaching service, Joe's newsletter, bit of merch, mugs here if anyone's got a mug shot for the YouTube camera. I've got my face mask too. Got it all. Keep safe for winter.
That's really. I have got mine too. I always keep mine in my pocket, right? So now with the new mandatory things, we have to wear them now. So in the UK,
you can sense the pace, and I'm rushing this, and then Joe's like, "Oh, where's my face mask? It's in my pocket." And
sorry,
I like to do this. And all that's left for us to do is now count us down. 3, 2, 1.
Inspiration Nation. Catch you guys later.
So I want to know now, what's your biggest takeaway? Don't forget to hashtag it with Inspiration Nation in the comments below, and make sure you commit to action. Thank you for checking it out. So don't forget you can catch all our other Inspiration Nation podcast episodes right over here. So go check them out. And also, don't forget to subscribe, because that will tell you when your next video goes live by you hitting that amazing bell. So until next time, it's Inspiration Nation, and I'll see you right over there.